Hey everyone! In the midst of making up all these gaming videos for October, I thought I'd also make another video with the records that I picked up recently. Once again, I have to give serious credit to Spin Me Round Records in Phillipsburg. Their selection has just been awesome every single time I went. That said, I'm actually going to start this video with one record I did not get from them first, and then the rest, which I did. So, first up, it was something I actually picked up at FYE. Now, I don't normally pick up any music there ever anymore because I always find them to be pretty overpriced typically. There was a bit of an exception, though, for this one. This was pretty special to me personally. This was the Best of Godzilla, 1954 through 1975. What this actually contains is the majority of all of the soundtracks from the Showa era of the Godzilla movies. Let me focus that in there so you could see. It's missing a few specific movies and soundtracks, don't get me wrong, but the majority of them all actually are included in here, which is nice, because I was originally considering getting a bunch of the original vinyls, and those are not so easy to come by. This was a nice little bonus. Also, being that it was an FYE exclusive, as you can see here, they limited this one to 1,000 units, and the reason why they did that, if I pull out the first sleeve here so you can see, is because they all came in this nice, shiny, see-through greenish color that you can see up against the light there. It's a very neat little setup. It also came with this little extra sheet here talking about all of the different movies and soundtracks on here, and then a little chronology about the movies in the back here as well. A very, very nice little presentation. The only issue I'd say I have with it, as I have any time a set does this, is this idea of taking two vinyl records, just putting them in sleeves and slapping them on top of each other in one specific record sleeve. I've never been a fan of that approach. That's like stacking stuff on top of each other in a jukebox. It doesn't allow these things to hold up as well. I always prefer gatefolds for 2+ record sets personally, but that's just me. Otherwise, really, really awesome set, and I'm just excited to have it as a big fan of the big G-Man myself. This next one has a bit of a funny history. In my never-ending quest to get every Jethro Tull record here, I managed to acquire Crest of a Nave. Now, for those who remember, this was the infamous album that won a Grammy in 1989 for heavy metal. For those who don't know, Jethro Tull is not a heavy metal band, yet they won this Grammy anyway. I hear that if you talk about it now, you can still hear Lars Ulrich complaining about it to this day. In all seriousness, though, it is an excellent album, and it was a great return to form for the band, which is one of the reasons I was excited to finally get a copy. Speaking of Tull, something I never gave proper time and respect to, just as with their regular 80s material, was Ian Anderson's solo material. So that was why I got his first solo album, Walk Into Light. Up until this point, the only solo work of his I've ever heard was Thick as a Brick 2, and that was obviously because I wanted more Jethro Tull, and that's pretty much what that gave me. This was the first official solo album released by him, and I say official because the Jethro Tull album A was originally supposed to be a solo album as well, but I believe it was the label or someone else that encouraged Ian Anderson to still call that one Jethro Tull, and it got mixed reactions because of that, but that still had songs I loved. So I'm looking forward to finally giving this a fair shot too and seeing what I think. If A was any indication, I think that I'll probably come out enjoying some of it, if not the whole thing. We'll see. While this next one is not hard to get by any degree, I always had a hard time finding what I'll call a good copy. Every copy of it I found all over the place, destroyed. It always looked like it was destroyed. It was like the luck that I used to have with Deep Purple records. They were always destroyed. You want a nice looking copy of Machine Head? Ha! It would never happen. In this case, there was Aerosmith's album Rocks. I've had copies of the first album, the self-titled one with Dream On. I've had copies of Toys in the Attic and all of those for years, but I can never get a good copy of Rocks. I don't know why. So I finally alleviated that. This was the one with Back in the Saddle, Last Child, Rats in the Cellar, which was kind of like a heavy metal precursor combination. Yeah, really, really, again, solid album. Arguably their best alongside Toys in the Attic, actually. I think Toys may be just a little higher on that pedestal for me, but I mean, this was another must listen for fans. It was just that good. Glad to finally have one that doesn't look horrible. This next one I've also been trying to get a nice copy of for a very long time in my never-ending quest to get everything Frank Zappa ever wrote, at least while he was alive, every release from while he was alive. I managed to pick up the Grand Wazoo. This was part of 3 albums that were referred to as Frank Zappa's free jazz period that started with Hot Rats, worked its way to Waka Jawaka, I don't know if that's how it's pronounced, and then finishing it off with Grand Wazoo itself. While I don't think I'd ever put any other albums from that period over Hot Rats, as that has been by far my favorite Zappa record that I've heard at least up until this point. It's hard to get through them all. If you've ever looked through his large catalog, I believe he released 65 plus albums while he was alive, and that's not including the unreleased material that we've been seeing over the last 10-15 years too. But this is still, I mean, it's still just as important. It's still just as much of an important listen, and it was a very, very unique looking sleeve too, as you could see just by all of this very, very detailed artwork. I'll open the inside too, so you can see it was always that nice mix of artistic and silly all at once, and then inside with the inserts and lyrics and other things. You can actually see some pretty funny references on the back here. Like there's Uncle Meat in the background behind the old man. Just a really, really cool sleeve. Looking at that on a CD case just doesn't do it justice. You want the big artwork like this. This next one I also see all the time, but I just never got around to picking it up. I couldn't even tell you why, just never got around to it. This was Philip Bailey's Chinese Wall. This was the album with the song Easy Lover, the duet that he did with Phil Collins. But honestly, I always thought the man just had a great voice, and I wanted to hear more of his stuff, and I heard a lot of people considered this album here to be the way to go for that. I've been giving more and more 80s artists and things a listen. I was always a 70s person growing up, and I've been trying to give 80s more of its fair shot. So this will be another step toward doing that, and looking forward to seeing what else Philip here had to offer. And last but not least, another album I've been trying to get for quite a long time and was excited to finally find a decent copy of is King Crimson's Lark's Tongues and Aspic. This was a very, very special one to me, partly for the song itself, which is stretched across 2 parts over the record, but then also the single Easy Money, which is a very, very, very catchy song. I don't know what it was about bands in the 70s who wrote songs about money. You know, you think Pink Floyd and others, but every time they did, it was always the catchiest thing, and this was no exception. So with this, that leaves Just Red as the only 70s King Crimson album that I am still missing. Unfortunately, that is a very popular one because it is arguably one of, if not their best. I think I still personally put In the Court of the Crimson King at the top, but oof, it's a tough call. Red is also a near flawless album and another top contender. This here may be a distant third for me, but I'm very, very happy to finally have it, and I can't wait to give it a spin, as I've been listening to it on CD for many, many years and wanted to just get a nice final copy too. So there it is. And that's everything I picked up lately. Let me know anything you picked up yourself in the comments below, or what you thought of any of the records I just picked up today, and look forward to more. I may be able to fit in another album review this month as well. Maybe it'll be spooky themed for October. Who knows? We'll see. Meantime, see you all later.